From the hockeyfan.com studios, this is the Dump and Chase podcast. Stream the show on Western Reserve Radio, YouTube, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. With your hosts, Sam Olmstead and Justin Irwin. The show starts now.
Daddy, what are you doing?
I don't know. Sam paid me $5 to read this. Show starts now.
Hello, Phantom fans, and welcome to Season 5, Episode 9 of the Dump and Chase podcast. I'm Sam, he's Justin, and Justin, right away, I wanted to point out this is Episode 90, and we've talked about it before that in the beginning, we weren't even sure if we would make it to 10 episodes. Now we're 10 away from 100.
Well, we might make it, this season? Next season?
The funny thing is, if I did the math right, if we don't take a week off over the next couple of months, it'll be episode 100 will be at the end of March, which would also coincide with the 4-year anniversary.
Wow.
If we don't skip any more episodes, hopefully we're getting into a good enough groove here scheduling wise that won't happen, but never say never.
Yeah, it's an odd season already, so.
Yeah. All right, how about we talk about some hockey?
Oh, Lord. Here we go.
Right off the bat, the Phantoms have some roster moves going on. All of this is according, there hasn't been any news from the team, but all of this is according to the USHL transaction page. Leaving the Phantoms will be Hunter Price. He was, quote unquote, traded to the Prince George Spruce Kings of the British Columbia Hockey League for future considerations. I would do air quotes, but this isn't a video show. So traded for future considerations. So Hunter Price heading back to Canada. And Danzluck Mellis was dropped from the roster. He did not appear with the Phantoms this season. He was somebody that was talked about over last summer that would be joining the Phantoms. I guess he decided to go back to whichever country he's from in Europe that I can't remember offhand, but I'm sure it's one of the nice ones.
Not worth it at this point.
But yeah, did not appear for the Phantoms. Was kept, I guess, on the roster as a just-in-case deal, and finally was not the case, so he was dropped. Coming in, a pair of players from Slovakia. Both of these players were with Team Slovakia in the U20 World Junior Championships. The first one, defenseman Pavel Fontic. That's going to take a little bit to get these ones. 03 defenseman, big boy, 6'6", 207 pounds. Shane LaChance will have somebody to look up to.
Yeah, adding some size on the blue line there, obviously, if everything comes to fruition.
Also, coming now at this point, we don't know with visa issues, and it has been a thing in the past. We're well aware of the history of that. A lot of these European players trying to get visas, getting over here as quickly as possible is not always the case. So I mean, they will be coming at some point, but it's hard to say with that. Hey everyone, this is Sam, basically interrupting myself with a quick editorial note. Another point that should have been brought up during this conversation was that just because these players appeared on the transaction list as an ad for the Phantoms does not officially mean that they're coming to Youngstown. As it goes with everything, nothing is official until either an announcement is made by the Phantoms themselves or these players just appear on a roster before a game. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Enjoy the rest of the show. But also coming over will be 04 birth year forward Martin Mishak, 6'2", 198. Currently by the NHL Central Scouting, he is a projected second to third round pick in this upcoming summer's NHL draft. The common thinking, at least on Twitter, seems to be him coming to the United States, trying to raise his draft stock a little bit going into the draft this summer.
Yeah, I mean, you've already got several people on the radar in Youngstown, and Mishak is not small himself, so again, the Phantom's adding a little bit of size here.
And then another thing I just kind of wanted to bring up,
I'm glad you did.
Over the summer, I wouldn't say we questioned. It was just a little eyebrow raising when we talked about the haul that the Phantom sent to Tri-City in return for Andrew Strathman. Kind of questioning the amount of picks that we sent and everything else. I will say for two reasons I no longer feel this way. The first reason, most obviously, first and foremost, Strathman has been as advertised, worth what we gave away to Tri-City for him. Absolutely zero argument there. Also, and
knowing that Tri-City will squander that.
Yeah, all those picks are going to go off somewhere else anyways. But also there could be worse trades.
Well, there is a model for this, and we're going to look at the umbrella of Canadian junior hockey, major junior.
Yeah.
The CHL. We've got some examples here.
Yeah.
And these are by no means the only ones of these. There is a pre-existing model for this.
Yeah. Starting out in the WHL, news came out in the past week. The Everett Silvertips sent 2 players to the Kamloops Blazers, and I swear one of these days we're going to just do a whole segment on some of these Canadian team names. Because the
BCHL especially.
The BCHL especially. There's some doozies. But yeah, Everett sent 2 players to Kamloops. In return, they received 4 players and 10 draft picks over the course of the next 4 drafts through 2016. That includes all 4 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, a 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th. But probably the most questionable thing of this whole trade is the second-round pick in 2026 is conditional. Like
one conditional. What are the conditions here? Please, somebody tell me what they make the playoffs in the next 10 to 15 years. I don't. Yeah.
What? To be a fly in the room when you're throwing 10 picks around and then somebody stands up and goes, well, wait,
hold on.
We're going to this second round pick 4 years from now, 4 drafts from now, we're going to have to slap some conditions on this thing. Is there like some 11 or 12-year-old they're scouting that they're projecting to be a second round pick in 2026? So they were kind of afraid of where they would end up in the second round of the 2026 WHL trade, WHL draft, that they don't want to lose this 11, 12-year-old.
It's more random than some of the jokes on Family Guy.
Yeah, I'd love to know the story behind that one.
Such is the negotiations in Canadian major junior hockey. I'm sure briefcases of cash were involved.
And then just completely randomly, today before recording, I found another one that had popped up. This one in the Ontario Hockey League. The Saginaw Spirit are sending 9 draft picks, ranging from the 2024 to the 2026 draft to the Ottawa 67s for 1 player. 9 draft picks over 3 drafts, but not even this year's draft. The 3 years after, 9 draft picks for 1 player.
Yeah, I'm sure right now Jason Kohler is just going out of his mind, going, "Wait, hold on, can I do that?"
And when I say this, I am well aware that we're talking about 2 completely different leagues here. But with Hunter Price being traded to the BCHL for future considerations, if our GMs don't get like 6 or 7 picks, like draft picks out of this, I think they're getting screwed in the deal.
Yeah, I mean, considering there's no bargaining agreement between the 2 leagues or anything like that.
Maybe some spare Zamboni parts or.
There you go.
And this is not a comment on Hunter Price, the player. Just, I don't know. This might be a question to ask someday. How does an interleague trade work when there is no agreements in place? Or
when you're the BCHL, you just say it and it has to be true.
And sometimes it happens. And
no, it doesn't.
I was trying to be nice. All right, so with all of that, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll look back at the Phantoms' weekend trip to Muskegon, so keep it right here with the Dump and Chase podcast on Western Reserve Radio. And we're back with the Dump and Chase podcast brought to you by Advanced Podiatry. So this past weekend, the Phantoms took a trip up to Muskegon in Michigan for 2 games with the Lumberjacks, splitting this series, losing on Friday 3-1, and then winning on Saturday 1-0. We really don't have a ton to talk about for this weekend. I mean, it was...
No, win or lose. They were grinding games, we'll say. Definitely grinding. Neither offense really found their mark.
I mean, the game on Friday, Shane LaChance picking up the only goal for the Phantoms. Really, the only exciting part of the entire game was William Whitelaw getting a 2-10 for charging. And that's going to bleed into something you're going to talk about later on, but that was just kind of the...
Yeah, there was a goofy moment involved in that. I'm sure there's more to it than...
I mean, just talking about William Whitelaw, and when we were at the Cavelli Center the weekend before, talking to someone there, the phrase that was used was, "Have you seen anyone more snake bitten right now than William Whitelaw?"
And it was one of those in the moment comments that we could all agree with at that moment.
Yeah. In the last 17 games, only 3 goals, 4 assists. And kind of the funny thing, the game on Friday, he registered 0 shots on goal, which is the only time this season that has happened.
And going into that game, it has not been for the lack of chances or the lack of trying or the lack of generating good scoring opportunities.
Just for reference, a typical game for William Whitelaw, he did register 6 shots on goal on Saturday. It's just at the end of the day, I guess it's just kind of one of those, what are you made of, just kind of character building type of stretches. What kind of work are you putting into it to get yourself out of this funk?
And then you're just hoping that it's one of those things that when he does snap out of it, you see the real William Whitelaw and what we are pretty sure he's capable of.
This is in no way a dig on him. It's just kind of how it's gone recently, but I mean, we know what kind of kid he is. We know what kind of player he is. It's just right now he's in a bit of a funk, and
I mean, they're just not going in.
Yeah, he's getting the chances, he's getting the opportunities, and right now the puck just isn't going in. So just kind of hopefully sooner than later, he can snap out of it. But at the same time, it's, one of your teammates is struggling, who's the next guy to step up? And I mean, with the Sorbonne trade, I mean, he's somebody that's definitely stepped up and is, helping as far as filling the score sheet on his, brief time with Youngstown so far.
Again, we're still a little weirded out seeing him in a Phantoms uniform.
The goal scoring, the stick handling, the passing, everything else. Yeah, that you're used to seeing. It's just coming around to used to seeing it in a Phantoms jersey. It's still getting used to, seeing that live. I've only seen it once so far. I mean, a welcome addition, no doubt.
Yeah, definitely. If you can't beat them, join them or have them join you.
Talking about the game on Saturday, Jacob Fowler getting his 3rd shutout of the season. That is now the 5th of his USHL career. And per friend of the show and voice of the Youngstown Phantoms, Matt Lipsack, he is currently 1 shy of tying somebody who's been a favorite of yours over the years, Sean Romeo, his team record of 6 shutouts over the course of 3 seasons, I believe.
Yeah, so obviously we're really optimistic that Jacob can tie Romeo, which would be absolutely mind-blowing. Looking at the time Romeo was here and the team around him and what we're building now, I guess you could say there's a lot of parallels.
And Romeo was someone you were very fond of back in his time with Youngstown.
Yeah, I mean, he could steal you a game. And as we saw, Fowler stole us a game. Yeah, and then
talking about Andon Sorbonne gets the game-winning, the only goal of the game-winning goal on Saturday. Apparently, with the new Muskegon broadcaster this year, Frank Zarowski, needs a little bit of a lesson in goaltender interference.
I mean, Yeah, he's been better for the most part than the guy last year. So I'm not gonna to criticize him too much.
I mean,
But
yeah, he's young, he's new, he's still shiny, he's still pink.
yeah. So uh I could do a Pixar bit, but yeah.
Yeah, it's essentially what the play was. The Sorbonne goal was Sorbonne was at the front of the goal crease, kind of got tied up by Jack's defenseman Matthew Morden from behind, and then got put, basically got toppled over onto Jack's goaltender, Rathan Robbins, who had a heck of a weekend, toppled over on top of him. And then as Sorbonne was down, saw the puck kind of laying on the goal line, so he just reached his stick out and tapped it in.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of very high-pitched screaming about goaltender interference, even going back and looking at the replay.
Yeah, Sorbonne was outside of the crease, and Morden pushed him in. I think he was still mostly outside of the crease when he fell onto Rathan Robbins, who otherwise had an outstanding weekend. Sorbonne was not intentionally trying to lay on him.
Yeah. Well, the thing that kept getting to me was how that goal kept throughout the rest of how much of the game was left after that point, that he kept referencing that goal as it was a controversial goal. It was controversial, except you saw no Muskegon player arguing with the referee. You did not see the goaltender arguing with the referee. You did not see the bench arguing with the referee, and you didn't see the referees discussing it. They called it a goal. Everybody went back to their benches.
The puck was immediately dropped.
Yeah, they went straight to the face-off at center ice and moved on. The only controversy in it was that Frank thought it was goaltender interference when apparently nobody actually on the ice did.
I mean, I'm sure they tried to argue it, but
if they did, it was very quick.
Yeah, I'm sure they tried to, and the referees were not having any of that.
Yeah,
and I mean, there wasn't, I thought, a whole lot to really complain about officiating the weekend. So.
Yeah, like I said, there is really not much to go on for this weekend. Just, we can kind of pick through and find things to talk about. There was not much to go on this past weekend.
No, pretty much a grinding weekend.
Yeah, so we're just gonna march right out of this segment, go to a commercial break, and come back into the next one, because that's about the best we can do for this. So yeah, we're going to take another break. When we come back, we'll take a look back at this past weekend in a little deeper manner with this week's segment of 4 points. So stick around with the Dump and Chase podcast here on Western Reserve Radio.
Advanced Podiatry has been making happy feet in the Mahoning Valley for 35 years. Our offices are located in Cortland, Champion, Austintown, Columbiana, and Howland. Our Howland office has relocated to 8601 East Market Street in Howland Corners. Advanced Podiatry offers sports medicine and treatment plans for all ages. You can also request an appointment online by visiting our website at advancedpodiatry.com. Advanced Podiatry, where surgery is always a last resort.
Join Stars photographer BA and Off-Ice official Gene Cotter for Thunderstruck, the unofficial Lincoln Stars podcast, where we talk with your favorite Lincoln Stars players, coaches, and alumni.
It was a great night, yeah. Beat them in their own rink just before the buzzer was something special for sure.
I don't want to call it a surprise because I knew that there was a great, rich history for hockey here in Lincoln, but I was really happy to see the fans come back in droves and be such a great supporter for us.
I think he's copying some NHLer he's looking up to, but I don't know. I think it's Dusty. I think a lot of guys think it's sick, though.
To let him in penalty minutes back before they handed out those little 10-minute wussy misconducts on everything.
Thunderstruck the podcast, all season long, right here on the Anchor app or wherever you find your favorite podcast.
And we're back with the Dump and Chase podcast, brought to you by Advanced Podiatry. So for listeners new and old, 4 points is where we break down the previous weekend into 4 categories: what we liked, what we didn't like, favorite moment, and the Dump and Chase podcast 3 stars of the week. So I will kick it off with what we liked. And basically on Saturday, the Phantoms, I guess what I'll call it, the bend but don't break defense. Muskegon, getting 43 shots on goal, but they were getting their opportunities Not a ton of what they like to call grade A opportunities.
No, after the night before where I thought Muskegon might have got more chances than what they should have. It was really great to see, in a tight 0-0 for most of it game. We played pretty solid defense against a team that was really pushing us.
Yeah, and those 43 shots on Saturday, that was the second most the Phantoms had given up this season. Only missing out by 1 to Waterloo with 44 a few weeks previous.
Yeah, and that was not a great game.
And talking about kind of this thing that we're not used to seeing with the Phantoms is typically the Phantoms are out every single game are out shooting other teams. And that was kind of the oddball thing with this past weekend. Muskegon out shooting Youngstown in both of these games. But for the most part, and especially on Saturday, it was for the defense, it was bend but don't break.
When those 43 shots came in, what I liked, Jacob Fowler kind of owning the moment there, wanting to get points out of this weekend. Wraith and Robbins only giving up 1 goal each game. Normally you would consider that 2 wins on the weekend. But Fowler pitching the shutout there, really stepping up.
And, going back and again and talking about the defense, you had, just a lot of contested shots, a lot of bad angle shots. Great overall, and when you look at it in hindsight, it worked out. Probably not the most fun for Fowler, with a lot of chances for deflections. And
there was one moment. There was a shot came in through traffic. He blocked it, gave up a rebound, and I just remember him scrambling between legs because no one knew where the puck was but him, and he's just scrambling to scoop this puck up and cover it up. And I think it was in the third period, if memory serves me right, but just an overall, command performance.
Yeah, I mean, Fowler did make some great saves in this game. Even though 43 shots, it was not a case of he was just constantly under threat, under fire the entire time. But yeah, no, Fowler did make some incredible saves in this game when the need called for it. Yeah, so far as what I didn't like, the Phantoms power play. 0 for 5 on the weekend. They're 2 for their last 23. And we've talked about this before, just kind of the woes of the power play, just kind of being in this slump. There was the one game last weekend. They did pick up a couple goals, but just overall, it just one of the things I kept noticing, just kind of one of these set plays they do, these shot passes from the point, looking for deflections up front, and it doesn't even seem like those passes are even connecting anymore.
No, and when they do, they go the wrong way.
Yeah, they deflect in the wrong direction. They deflect to the corner.
And I mean, it's not that the players who are there are not doing it right. We've all seen Shane LeChance put the puck in the net. They just aren't going. And
well, yeah, I mean, LeChance has made his living this season
in front of the net.
Of the net. And and it's just, talking about Whitelaw earlier, and it's just kind of one of those things. What's that reset point where everything starts clicking again? Because that's just been, the power play just hasn't been.
There's going to be one crazy goal, and that's going to kick it off.
A lot of disconnect, not like everybody's on the same page. And it's, in a slight way, it's criticism, but at the same time, it's just, you're just kind of hoping for that moment where everything turns back around again. But
that's just how hockey goes.
Yeah.
So what I didn't like, and this is not just this week, we've seen it previous weeks, starting Colin Wynn on the first game, I guess saving the number 1 goaltender for the second game. I don't see the logic in that. I think maybe if we had Fowler in net on Friday, we get a win there, and then see how Muskegon's momentum goes. I guess I'm just nitpicking the decisions here, but we've seen this previous weeks, and it's always been kind of what's the game plan here, and this weekend I'm going to call it out.
Yeah, it's not saying anything against Colin Wynn, but it's pretty clearly established Jacob Fowler is the number 1 goaltender on this team. So
yes.
And there may be a variable to this that we just don't know about, and we'll never know about it.
And again, we just don't have a lot to go on this week, so
yeah,
that's what I'm going to pick on. So
you don't want to criticize coaches, especially when you haven't done it yourself. It is just when what typically you're used to seeing, and then it kind of gets flipped around.
And we've heard other people asking, why do we do this? So
we're not the only ones asking that question by a long mile. Yeah, just when you're used to seeing things one way, it kind of raises a curiosity as a fan when it kind of flips around the other way. But I mean, certainly not a criticism of the coaching or criticism of Colin Wynn himself, who, as this season has gone along, has grown into this league. Little rough sledding at the beginning, but you can tell that the game is slowing down for him when he's out there, that he's, getting the hang of the speed of the game. And
yeah, no, it's just, I'd like to see him come in and play a game against a team that's kind of been broken down a little bit by Fowler.
So moving on to my favorite moment. My favorite moment is when the broadcast was over. Listening to these games with earbuds in was a very poor personal decision on my part. Still a little bit of ringing in my ears that has not gone away.
Tinnitus, yeah.
But that
turn down the treble a little.
That along with just kind of this point in the game on, I believe it was Saturday. It was James Fisher was called for a trip on Muskegon's defenseman Tyler Dunbar, and Dunbar falls over, and the call was, "Oh, that's tripping. That's an obvious tripping penalty." To 5 seconds later, when Dunbar was sent to the penalty box, being called for embellishments. I had a good hearty laugh with that one. When you editorialize and you say, "Oh, that's an obvious trip," and then the guy who was tripped is sent to the box for embellishments.
Sometimes maybe a little too obvious.
Yeah.
And sometimes maybe not just the players are trying too hard.
Yeah.
Maybe the guys in the box are trying too hard. Or
Right.
I mean, the guys in the booth are trying too hard.
Yeah, so we referenced this earlier in the show. You can talk about it now. Your favorite moment of the week?
Yeah, somewhere after that 2-10 that Whitelaw picked up, the Muskegon, I think, scored a power play goal. Apparently, William Whitelaw tried to come back out onto the ice and was escorted right back off with the refs. I don't know what he was thinking, but you're not going to get away with that. And it's just kind of humorous to see in what was otherwise a pretty pedestrian weekend.
At least as far as the official score sheet, it wasn't listed as a game misconduct. It was just listed as a 10-minute misconduct, but with only 11 minutes left in the game.
Apparently he thought that, because they scored, he was allowed to come back out of the runway and go back to the bench. I'm reasonably certain William Whitelaw knows the rules of the game. I don't know what the attempt was there, but I chuckle and laugh, and let's move on.
That's what it's been, trying to cover these last couple. We're I guess just kind of looking for the comedy this week. We're just looking for the lighthearted moments, because
nice try, son.
Isn't a ton to go on. So now it is time for the Dump and Chase podcast 3 stars of the week, and we will kick this off with the 3rd star, Phantoms defenseman Torrey Pittner. 2 assists on the weekend. He is an 06 birth year that started out the season as an affiliate with the Phantoms. This was, as of Saturday, was his 11th game with the Phantoms. That puts him past the 10 game affiliate limit. So he is now no longer an affiliate and a full-time roster member. He's here to stay.
As far as we know, yeah. He's been playing great. So welcome to the full-time roster, if we're right. 2nd star of the game, Andon Sabone. Game-winning goal on Saturday. 4 goals, 9 assists, and 11 games. Wow. Is that right?
Yes.
4 goals, 9 assists in 11 games since coming over to the Phantoms. Incredible stats. And if you think about how many of those have been big moment goals, just incredible.
Serbone, 13 points in 11 games with the Phantoms. He spent the first 21 games of the season with Omaha, where he picked up 14 points in those 21 games. So he's in about half the amount of games played, he's almost matched his point total from his time with Omaha at the beginning of the season.
And I think he's been on the 3 stars ever since we've been back.
Yeah.
And since he's been on the team.
Yeah.
So, amazing stuff there.
But yeah, talking about kind of the big moments he's been a part of, already in 11 games, 2 game-winning goals.
Yeah.
And for the first star of the week, really, no guessing, no question here, Jacob Fowler, stopping 43 of 43 for his 3rd shutout of the season. Jacob is 6-1 in his last 7 starts, so a little bit of a rough start to the season. Really has picked it up in the last month or so. Also being bolstered with that gold medal he picked up in that time span also.
Yeah.
With the World Junior A Challenge. So starting to see draft projections coming out, for this summer's NHL draft. And the thing to notice is that Fowler has been climbing these charts, especially over the projections come out over the last month or so. He's really climbing up these charts, really, as we're hitting the midpoint of the season, really getting into his groove here.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure this past weekend will put a lot of people on notice.
Yeah. All right. So out with the old and in with the yet to happen. So when we come back, we'll preview the other Eastern Conference matchups this weekend and take a look at the Phantoms' three-game weekend with Muskegon and Madison. You are listening to the Dump and Chase podcast on Western Reserve Radio. And welcome back to the Dump and Chase podcast, brought to you by Advanced Podiatry. So right off the bat, with this coming weekend, we're going to take a look around the Eastern Conference, see what will be going on. Cedar Rapids, they will have a home-and-home with Green Bay this weekend. Cedar Rapids, having won 6 of 7, actually lost both of their games last weekend to Dubuque. And Green Bay, 8-2 in their last 10 games, swept the U17s last weekend. Chicago and Dubuque's going to have an interesting little deal here this weekend. Chicago will have 2 home games with the visiting Waterloo Blackhawks and the Des Moines Buccaneers, so a little bit of interconference play there. Chicago, 3-4 in their last 7 games, and they've been trading wins and losses. It's been loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. So we'll see how they do with the Western Conference coming in there. Looking at their schedule ahead, they're going to be doing something similar to this next month. Over the course of a weekend, they'll be traveling to Omaha and Des Moines. So Chicago is one of the teams that kind of gets some of these Western Conference, interconference games.
Imagine that.
Yeah. Dubuque, they will have 2 games at home this weekend. They will be going in the opposite order of Chicago. They will have Des Moines on Friday night and Waterloo on Saturday night. So Chicago and Dubuque will be trading Western Conference teams here. Dubuque, they are currently on a 3-game winning streak after losing 6 of 7. And like mentioned earlier, they swept Cedar Rapids last weekend. Muskegon, the Thursday game with Youngstown we'll talk about here in a bit. They will have a home-and-home series with the NTDP on Friday and Saturday. On Friday, they will be traveling to Plymouth to take on the U17s, and then we'll come back to Muskegon on Saturday for a game with the U18s. Muskegon 3-6-1 in their last 10 games. The U17s, who thankfully this is the only time we got to mention these guys in this episode, they are currently on a 4-game losing streak. The U18s on the season so far in USHL play, 8-1, 0-2. So far, their only regulation loss coming to Cedar Rapids on December 16th. Now with all that, now we can get to Youngstown. This will be a 3-game weekend for the Phantoms, the start of a 5-game homestand. The Phantoms on Thursday will welcome Muskegon back to the Covelli Center, the 3rd game in a row with Muskegon. That game on Thursday will be a 6:05 puck drop, an hour earlier than we're typically used to. On the season, Youngstown 4-1 against Muskegon and 2-0 at the Covelli Center, outscoring them 7-2 in those 2 games. And then Friday and Saturday, the Madison Capitals will be coming back to Youngstown. Both of those games, a 7:05 puck drop. Youngstown, and we touched on this last week, Youngstown 1-3 versus Madison this season, 0-2 at home. If you look at the standings, Youngstown currently with 34 points, Madison with 18. So Youngstown almost double the points of Madison in the standings. But Madison's 8 wins this year, 3 of them have been against Youngstown.
I mean, at least we're not losing that many to teams we're competing with. But yeah, you want to win the games against the teams at the bottom.
Yeah.
Madison, we love you. Not really, but it's a bad season for them. They had a really good season last year, their best. So kind of sad to see. We just wish they'd stop taking their frustration out on us.
Yeah, Madison had the fairy tale season last year, the run to the Clark Cup finals. And part of that was their play and their dominance against Youngstown, and then of course carrying over to the first round of the playoffs. The complete opposite story for Madison this season, but the one thing that has carried over is their play against Youngstown. So hopefully maybe we're getting to the point in the season that we can flip that around as well. Statistically,
it should break at some point. But this is hockey and we know how it goes.
Yeah. So the last time these two teams played, December 11th in Madison, that was a 6-1 win for the Phantoms. And then on December 12th, that was a 5-3 loss. Yeah, and Madison looks like they've reached the point in the season. They're starting to ship some players off. They made a big trade with Chicago, which had a lot of people in Chicago salivating, and all that translated to Madison actually beating Chicago this past Saturday 4-2. So
I mean, sometimes trades work out both ways. Hopefully this is not that case. We wish both teams the worst of luck.
Yeah, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So Madison was on a 9-game losing streak. The last game they had won was on December 11th against Youngstown at the Cavelli Center. They go on a 9-game losing streak, trade away essentially probably their best player on the team, and then celebrate that by beating Chicago 4-2 on Saturday. So
hopefully that's just karma. And next week, back to statistics.
Yeah.
On paper, we should be dominating this series. It hasn't happened. You have to expect at some point in time, things will at least even up.
We can hope, and what it says on paper, but that's kind of been the case with Madison last season and so far this season. The paper doesn't seem to matter at all. What's written on that paper just might as well be gibberish. Rip it up and throw it away, because it does not matter. So for all of these games this weekend, the games will be available on Western Reserve Radio, the audio stream, and the video stream on Flow Hockey. On the call for both of those games, voice of the Youngstown Phantoms, Matt Lipsack. But again, it's always better to just come to the games, and then you can sit in the stands and wave at Matt up in the booth. He may wave back. He does do that sometimes, even if you're all the way on the opposite end of the rink. If he sees you waving at him, he will wave back.
Well, the sight lines are pretty good for that.
Yeah.
We see him pretty good.
I mean, that's the one thing you could say about Cavelli Center. There are no bad seats in there.
Very few.
Yeah. For a hockey game, there's not really a bad view in there.
We've all been to worse.
Oh, yeah. I've been to baseball games at Three Rivers Stadium. You think you're getting a discount and you're sitting behind a concrete pillar. So, yeah, so tickets for these games are available. You can go to either youngstownphantoms.com or you can call the Phantoms box office. My brain has short-circuited for the night.
I totally understand. I'm at my limit too.
So tickets are available for these games. You can pick those up by either visiting youngstownphantoms.com or you can call the Phantoms box office. So tickets are... Damn it. So tickets are... You son of a... Phantoms box office. So tickets are available for these games either by visiting youngstownphantoms.com or you can call the Phantoms box office. Or you can call the Phantoms box office. Why can I not say that? Phantoms box office.
I thought you had it.
Or you can call the Phantoms box office. Or you can call the Phantoms box office. Why do every time I say it, it sounds strange. Call the Phantoms box office.
Or you can call the Phantoms box office at 330-747-PUCK. Puck. You don't want me to try that. I'm going to screw it up.
Something about the X and then going into office is every time I say it, it sounds wrong. Or you can call the Phantoms box office at 330-747-PUCK. That is 330-747-7825.
Yay. All righty.
So we've said all the things that we can say. So we're going to take one more break. And on the flip side of that, we'll wrap up this episode and look ahead to next week's show. So stick around one more time here with the Dump and Chase podcast on Western Reserve Radio. And we're back, and that will do it for this episode of the Dump and Chase podcast. Of course, we want to thank our sponsors at Advanced Podiatry. Again, be sure to check out advancedpodiatry.com for more information. So next week, we will be recapping this 3-game series, and we will preview the final 2 games of this 5-game homestand with the Chicago Steel coming to town before the Phantoms head back out on the road for a couple of weeks. And of course, as always, you can hear this show on Western Reserve Radio Wednesdays at 5 p.m. You can also hear the show 1 hour before the live game broadcast, the first home game of the Phantoms weekend. I'm honestly not sure if it'll play this Thursday or this Friday. I probably should have checked with Dave before I did all this, but Dave Ferris at Western Reserve Radio.
He'll figure it out.
So either before the game this Thursday or this Friday, the game will broadcast leading into the live broadcast with Matt Lipsack. But yeah, you can catch this on westernreserveradio.com. The Live 365 or TuneIn apps, the Western Reserve Radio Facebook and Twitter pages, and the Youngstown Phantoms Facebook page. You can also hear this show on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Be sure to check us out and follow us on social media for more Phantoms information and information on the show. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Now, all of these links are located on our Linktree page, which can be found in the description of however you have decided to listen to this episode. So before we wrap this up, Justin, any final words of wisdom?
Not really. I guess I'd like to see a pretty big crowd at the Covelli this weekend, but those Thursday early start games are usually hard to fill the crowd. But never give up, never surrender.
It just now
Galaxy Quest.
It just now dawned on me. This just popped into my head. You told me before we started recording that you have already broken your New Year's resolution. The room you are recording in, as you've said, is very warm. You are currently wearing a hockey jersey and no pants. You are essentially that old woman at the beginning of Happy Gilmore.
That is my life's goal.
For some reason, that just popped into my head after sitting here talking to you for the last hour and a half. You are the old woman at the beginning of Happy Gilmore right now. Hockey jersey and no pants. We need to wrap this up so I can go to bed.
Same here.
So for my co-host, Justin Irwin, I'm Sam Olmstead. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to the Dump and Chase podcast, and we will talk with you all next week. Bye now.